In this episode, we talk about Mission Sankalp, an operation against the Maoists in Chhattisgarh. We also talk about another NEET scam that has surfaced recently. But first, we talk about a shift in the pattern of Pakistan's ceasefire violations at the border. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. When the terror attack in Pahalgam killed 26 tourists last month, India responded not just by conducting investigations and security reviews, but also by pulling diplomatic levers. Key among them was the decision to suspend the Indus Waters Treaty, one of the boldest moves in recent years. But while attention turned to water diplomacy, something else began unfolding slowly and then all at once along the line of control. It turns out that in the past 10 days, the Indian Army has reported a shift in the pattern of Pakistan's ceasefire violations. What was once occasional small arms fire in select infiltration corridors has now become widespread and coordinated firing across multiple sectors.
So, since 2021, when the latest ceasefire agreement was reached, there was a period of relative calm along the LOC.
This is the Indian Express's Amrita Dutta, who reported on the story for the paper.
There was no major ceasefire violation. There were no cross-border firing. The LOC was calm. However, there have been a lot of terror incidents since 2021, but the LOC has been calm. So, if you have to link it with the Pahalgam attack, after the Pahalgam attack, India had taken multiple steps. India had also vowed some kind of retaliation following the Pahalgam terror attack. And it was only since then that the unprovoked small arm firing by Pakistan had begun along the LOC. So something that was calm for so many years had suddenly heated up. So this has been seen in the last 12 days now. Every day there is ceasefire violation, every day there is small arm firing, and this has happened after the Pahalgam attack only.
Now, army officers say that this is a break from the past, with unprovoked firing now happening at the same time in both the north and the south of the Pir Panjal range, a region which usually sees more action in the south. This time, areas like Kupwara in the north and Akhnur in the south have been targeted almost daily. To understand this latest round of ceasefire violations, my colleague Ichha Sharma speaks to Amrita in this segment.
Amrita, could you start by telling us a bit about the history of the ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan and how it has shaped over the years?
So, Ichha, the ceasefire was established after the 1948-49 war between India and Pakistan, and following the similar agreement in 1972, this came to be defined as a line of control, which is more of a military border rather than instead of an internationally recognized border. So this is what effectively a ceasefire, if you have to talk about the history of ceasefire, this is it. But then when the Kargil war happened, after that there were multiple violations and firing from both sides. And in November 2003, there was again a ceasefire established along the entire stretch of this LOC, the military border between India and Pakistan. And this has facilitated a lot of things like the opening of the Srinagar, Muzaffarabad and Poonch Rawalkot routes. And then it also enabled India to complete the construction of a fence near the LOC to prevent Pakistani infiltration of terrorists. So this happened in 2003, and after 2003, for a couple of years, there were no bullets fired and there was relative peace in this area. But again, since 2007 or so, the number of violations, the number of firing, cross-border firings increased. India has always said that it was Pakistan that initiated the violations. So this continued increasing, and it reached a peak around 2017-18 when there was a lot of ceasefire violations happening, and there was a lot of aggression on both sides of the border at that time. So in 2021, both sides spoke again, and India-Pakistan kind of signed an agreement to adhere to the ceasefire, and they decided to abide by this 2003 ceasefire agreement along the LOC and J&K. So both India and Pakistan, they agreed to the strict observance of all these agreements, understandings and ceasefire along the LOC and all other sectors. So this was the latest. And since 2021, there has been a period of calm on the LOC. There have been incidents, individual terror incidents, but not too many ceasefire violation of cross-border firing incidents have taken place since 2021 after this agreement was reached.
And so what usually triggers a ceasefire violation? Like, how would you say these incidents typically unfold on the ground?
So a ceasefire violation entails one side firing a round, whether it's a small arms or a heavy weapon like artillery fire. So one side does this unprovoked firing and then the other side responds and the firing continues. It could continue for hours. It could continue for subsequent days and days. So it just keeps troops on both sides on high alert and the firing just continues. So this is usually what a ceasefire violation looks like on the ground. And of course, the villages, the border population staying there is heavily affected by the firing. And there is no fixed time when it would end. The cross-border firing can continue for as long as possible.
Right. And Amrita, what has been the usual pattern over the years? Like, how frequent have these violations been along the LOC?
So ceasefire violations have been frequent in phases. For instance, in 2017 and the years prior to that, and even in 18 to 2020, there was a significant increase. Both sides had reported ceasefire violations. India has always said that Pakistan is the one that initiates ceasefire violations. However, since the 2021 agreement, this agreement was largely holding, and there has not been too many reported violations since then. Till, of course, the recent days when, after the Pahalgam attack, every day there has been some sort of ceasefire violations.
And speaking of the last 10 days, what exactly has been happening along the LOC? Like, what's changed in the latest round that makes these violations different?
So it's been 12 days since the Pahalgam terror attack, and Pakistan has continued to violate the ceasefire along the LOC by initiating unprovoked firing. The latest incident was on Sunday night, and that marked the 11th consecutive time in this period. So the slew of ceasefire violations by Pakistan along the LOC over the last 10 days shows that unprovoked firing from posts across the border are no longer restricted to one or two sectors. So basically, it's no longer localized as was the case earlier, but they have simultaneously taken place all along the LOC in multiple sectors together, which is slightly different from what it was in the past. In the past, they were restricted to certain locations, one or two sectors, and were more localized in nature. But this time it is taking place all across the LOC, in the south of the Peet Panjal range, in the north of the Peet Panjal range, in the valley, everywhere simultaneously. So this, I would say, is a new trend that we see this time.
Right. So which sectors have seen the most firing? And also, could you tell us how unusual is it for violations to happen simultaneously across so many sectors?
So if we compare it with the past, I would say that this is pretty unusual, because in the past, as I just said, that it was more localized in nature. The violations, it remained restricted to one or two sectors. But this time it is happening simultaneously across multiple sectors. And I would say mostly it is happening in Kupwara, Baramulla, Poonch, Rajouri, Mendhar, Naushera, Sundarbani, Akhnur. So Kupwara, Akhnur, these are places which we are hearing every day where there is unprovoked firing from the other side. We're just hearing these two sectors predominantly every day. I would also say very unusual this time, the Parkwal sector, which lies along the international border in Jammu, also saw firing in the last week, which is very unusual, which is not at all common. So these ceasefire violations have been happening every day in these regions. And you also mentioned, like, why is it unusual? How unusual is it for these violations to happen simultaneously, right? So it is unusual because, like I said, it is no longer localized. And why would I say that, being localized and not being localized makes so much of a difference, right? So the reason why it was earlier localized was it was more of an attempt by the other side to kind of push in infiltrators. So whenever there is a cross-border firing happening and whenever there is ceasefire violation, there are cross-border firing happening constantly, they were more of an attempt by the other side, by Pakistan, to push in infiltrators from across the LOC, right? Because if infiltrators had to infiltrate from a certain sector, they cannot be infiltrating all together from all along the LOC. That's not possible. So certain sectors were selected and ceasefire violations were initiated, firing was initiated, and then there was cross-border firing, and that gave an opportunity to the infiltrators to infiltrate. However, with the latest ceasefire violations and the latest unprovoked firing happening simultaneously all along the LAC, it shows more of an aggressive intent by Pakistan and more of an effort to prevent offensive action from Indian troops by keeping its forward line of troop engaged. So this does not look like an attempt to push in infiltrators, but it looks more like an offensive action or a preemptive action.
And so, Amrita, what have the Indian Army officials said about this, sudden escalation? And how has India responded militarily so far?
So the army has not really gone into the details of the firing, but they have used two key words to describe their response. One is proportionately and the other is promptly. So they have always said that to the unprovoked firing, small arms firing from Pakistan's side, Indian Army has responded proportionately and promptly. So they have kept it at that. Also, the firing has been done from small arms only. Only small arms have been used in the firing. No artillery fire has been used. No heavy weapons have been used so far.
Right. And also, do we know how prepared is the Indian Army for a possible further escalation?
We cannot really go into the details of the preparedness, but the army, the military, everybody, the overall military has maintained that they have very high level of preparedness throughout, and the army particularly along the LAC with adequate men and weapons on ground. Also, they selected targets in place, adequate ammunition, adequate storage facilities in case there is an escalation in the firing. And as I've also reported in my story, right now small arms are being used, but in case it ever gives way to usage of heavy weapons for the firing, which has also been pretty common in the past, most artillery regiments deployed along the LOC on the Indian side, they have transitioned to 155 caliber guns from their earlier 105 caliber guns. So this is not to do with the latest tensions between India and Pakistan. This has been part of Army's ongoing artillery modernization plan. The new artillery guns, of course, have a better range, better impact in striking targets in the mountains. So yes, if you ask me, level of preparedness overall, yes, India has maintained it has high level of military preparedness. And particularly if you ask me about the LOC, the army has said that they have adequate men, weapons on ground, and they have their targets and ammunition and everything else, logistics, everything else in place.
And lastly, Amrita, you spoke of how the volatility of the region impacts the civilians the most, especially the ones that are living near the LOC in border villages. So can you tell us how bad is the situation for them?
Right. So the border population has always been the victim in cross-border firing, particularly when there is firing done by heavy weapons. So for them, over the years, have become a way of life. It affects their daily livelihood. It affects their education, their schools, their work, everything. And especially when there is heavy weapon firing, there's artillery firing, their infrastructure, villages, schools, workplaces, markets, they have been destroyed with firing, with shelling. So this has been typically there. And even when there is use of just small arms, it leads to a lot of trauma for the people, for the children over who are part of these border villages, who live in these border villages. So this has been a very traumatic thing for them. I can just put it that way.
And now, moving on from the tensions up north, we turn our attention to Chhattisgarh. On 21st April, security forces in the state launched Mission Sankalp in the Karigutta Hills located along the Chhattisgarh-Telangana border. Authorities claim that this mission, which involves the mobilization of over 24,000 troops, is a decisive operation aimed at ending the menace of left-wing extremism, a conflict that has plagued the region for over 6 decades. To learn more about the operation, its significance and its progress, we are joined by the Indian Express's Jayprakash Naidu. Jayprakash, to give our listeners some background, tell us about the Maoist situation in Chhattisgarh. What have been their demands over the years and how have the authorities dealt with this issue?
Well, Maoist, meaning Banned Communist Party of India Maoist, they want to establish their own rule in Chhattisgarh and then in India through an armed struggle, and they will never give up the weapons. Their claim is that they are protecting the Jal Jungle Jameen, that is water, forest and land in Bastar, and which they say will be handed over to the corporates for mining and tribals will lose everything. There have been attempts for peace talks in the past with Maoists, but Maoists say that they will never give up on weapons, while the government says that there will be no talks till you give up on weapons and give up the armed struggle and accept the Indian constitution. So right now the demands for peace talks have come from the Maoists, which is a rare thing, and they are saying that they have certain conditions for the peace talks. They are saying all the anti-Naxal operations must be stopped and the construction of new police camps must be stopped. These are the conditions they have put forth. And since 2024, when the Bharatiya Janata Party came to power in Chhattisgarh, the security forces have been very aggressive. Just to give you an idea, in 2023, 25 security personnel were killed and around 20 Maoists were killed in Bastar region. But in 2024, the number of Maoists killed in encounters shot up to 217 being killed, and at present another 129 Maoists have been killed in Bastar region this year, while the number of security personnel killed in these 2 years being below 40.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, several missions and encounters have been carried out in the past year and a half. So what makes Mission Sankalp stand out?
Yeah, so before I speak out Mission Sankalp, just to give you an idea, Bastar region is bigger than Kerala in size, and some of the Naxal affected districts like Narayanpur and Bijapur in the Bastar region, even they are bigger than the state of Goa. So it's like a huge area. So since 2024, continuous anti-Naxal operations are going on, and these police camps, these are being made for several years now, and these police camps are being used to fill up the security vacuum and lessen the Naxal dominance over the years. So at present, the Naxal dominance has shrunk to just small pockets in say Sukma, Dantewada, Bijapur and Narayanpur. So this Mission Sankalp is significant because it has pushed back the Maoists to this Karegutta Hills, which was earlier just a meeting place for them, but now this Karegutta Hills has become a place where they have been squeezed to and they have got stuck there. Also, this particular operation, it stands out as compared to the operations that we have seen before, because this operation involves mobilizing about 24,000 security personnel. They are being assisted by the Indian Air Force, and these security personnel are from the state forces as well as the central forces. The central forces are the CRPF and the CRPF's elite unit Cobra, and at the state level we have the District Reserve Guard, the Special Task Force, the Bastar Fighters, and officials told me that this is the last big battle, as these Maoists have nowhere to go now, and the Maoists who are hiding over there, these are key Maoist leaders, they have this whole structure where they have the Politburo, then they have the central committee, then they have a state level committee which is called Dandakaranya Special Zonal Committee. So all these senior leaders, except for Politburo, they are stuck there. A good number of senior leaders are stuck there in the Karegutta Hills, and they are being safeguarded by Battalion number 1, which is seen as the most strongest military formation of the Maoist. So officials said that eliminating Battalion number 1 will be a big thing, and it will make their task easier to meet the March 2026 deadline set by Union Home Minister Amit Shah to eradicate Naxalism from India.
So you mentioned that this operation is happening on the Telangana-Chhattisgarh border in the Karegutta Hills region. What are the challenges that the security personnel are facing in carrying out the mission there?
So earlier, the security forces, they were telling me that their operational area on these hills is around, say, 20 kilometers long. And the hills, the range of hills itself are 60 kilometers long. And one of the hills is also over 700 meters in height. So these hills are steep, and the Maoists who are hiding, they are in a dominant position. And the security forces, they are taking help of the Indian Air Force to assist the Jawans to, scale the hills. The terrain is tough, it's rocky. The hill has several caves and water springs, which are, proving to be good source of water and shelter to the Naxals. Also, the summer season is going on, so the temperature over there is, goes up to 40 to 43 degrees Celsius.
And Jayprakash, do we have any idea of how prepared the Maoists are for this fight?
Yes, so as I said earlier, the key Maoist leaders, they are being safeguarded by Battalion 1, which is the strongest military formation of Maoists. And this Battalion number 1 has killed at least 155 Jawans in the past. A senior official was also telling me that they have killed over 200 Jawans. This also includes the 76 CRPF Jawans who were killed in April 2010 in Tadmetla in Sukma. This battalion one, it is estimated that they have around 200 men and women in the force, and they are armed with 5,200 weapons. These include AK-47s, Insas rifles, light machine guns, self-loading rifles, IEDs, grenades, and they also got some 6 snipers, if I'm not wrong.
And now it's been over 10 days since the mission began. So what has been the progress till now?
Yes, so as of today, that is May 6, the Inspector General of Bastar Range, Sundaraj P, he said that they have reliable information that senior Maoist cadres have either been shot dead or injured in the encounter so far, but they have found the bodies of only 4 Maoists, all 4 being women, and 7 Jawans on different days. They have suffered minor injuries in ID blast, except for 1 Jawan in them, a CRPF Jawan who has been seriously injured, and he has been airlifted to Delhi AIMS for better treatment. His condition is to be stable. Also, in this period, the forces have found thousands of kilos of explosives, and they have also found bunkers and hideouts of Naxals, and the operation is still going on. They are saying less than 50% of the hills have been covered, and the operation is going to continue. It's not going to stop anytime soon.
And lastly, Jayprakash, what kind of political reactions has this operation prompted, and when can we expect it to come to an end?
So this is one question that we have also been asking the security forces, but they have not made it clear. They said that the operation is going to go on, and the idea behind the operation is, as I said off record, is to eliminate the military strength of battalion number 1. As far as the political reactions are concerned, we got some political reactions coming from Telangana as well as Chhattisgarh. So the Telangana Chief Minister Revant Reddy said that the government looks at Naxalism only from a social perspective and does not consider it to be a law and order issue. Former Telangana CM and Bharat Rashtra Samiti President K. Chandrasekhar Rao, KCR, he has urged the centre to stop the anti-Naxal operation in Chhattisgarh immediately and hold talks with Naxals like it is done in a democracy. Apart from these two, there is an umbrella organization of several activists and organizations. This includes Bela Bhatia, a lawyer, then Soni Sori, a tribal activist in Dantewada, and there are few more people, along with a large group of individual organizations who have, in a formal letter, they have appealed to President Draupadi Murmu to intervene and stop the anti-Naxal operations, as the Maoists have offered peace talks and there must be a dialogue. But Chief Minister Vishnudev Sai has made it clear that the operations will not be called off.
And in the end, we talk about the NEET UG examination. After a major case of paper leak surfaced last year, which was investigated by the CBI, this year, another controversy surrounding the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test has come up. According to a report by the Indian Express's Himanshu Harsh, 2 men, including a doctor posted at Begusarai District Jail, were arrested on Monday in Samastipur District for allegedly forging NEET admit cards and facilitating proxy candidates for the medical entrance exam. Samastipur Additional Superintendent of Police ASP Sanjay Kumar Pandey said that during the NEET 2025 exam that was held on Sunday across various centers in the district, they received a tip-off about a gang actively moving around Samastipur in a car, attempting to manipulate the examination process. Acting swiftly on this input, a special investigation team was formed, which identified a vehicle with a Darbhanga registration number moving near NEET centers throughout the day. Himanshu reported that the ASP said the vehicle was intercepted near Mohanpur Bridge. Upon questioning, the occupants identified themselves as Ram Babu Malik, a resident of Darbhanga, and Dr. Ranjit Kumar, a native of Samastipur, posted in the Begusarai jail. According to the police, during interrogation, both men confessed to orchestrating a racket of impersonating candidates of NEET 2025, and their statements are being corroborated with technical evidence. Himanshu reports that Malik's full-time job involved assisting in admissions to a government college in Darbhanga, which gave him a thorough knowledge of the admission process in medical colleges. This helped in their illicit operations. The ASP said their modus operandi involved replacing genuine candidates with scholars or proxy candidates hired to take the exam. The accused admitted to charging hefty sums from the candidates, paying the proxy scholars between Rs 2 lakh to Rs 5 lakh per exam, and they started forging admit cards as soon as the application process for the NEET UG started. They confessed to forging photographs, identity cards, signatures, and Aadhaar cards, swapping the details of genuine candidates with those of proxy candidates. A search of their mobile phones uncovered incriminating evidence. The officer told Himanshu, quote, "We found extensive communication on WhatsApp where admit cards, Aadhaar cards, signatures, and photographs were being exchanged in groups with potential accomplices." Unquote. The police said that it is only after the questioning that they will be able to ascertain how many proxy candidates appeared in the exam, if any. The accused have been charged under BNS sections dealing with cheating, cheating by personation, forgery of valuable security, will, etc., using forged documents or electronic records as genuine, and criminal conspiracy. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Ichha Sharma and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcast and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.